fascinated by this case, which undoubtedly all of you are, otherwise you shouldn't be here. And there's so many aspects of this case. If you spent 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, you probably would only be, getting the tip of the iceberg. I mean, for example, there's a medical evidence, the ballistic evidence, the Secret Service involvement, all these little things, all mount up. There's so much. It can be mind-boggling at times. And I find, quite recently, I've decided to stop trying to look at the minutiae, step back, try to look at the broader picture. Because there are many questions about this assassination. For example, the basic one that the police always try to answer initially when they make an investigation, and that's when did it happen, where did it happen, how it happened, and who was involved, the victims and the perpetrators. But the most important question I think that we should try to find an answer to is this one. Why was President Kennedy killed? If we can find a definitive answer to this question, I think you'll probably be much more enlightened than actually looking a little bit too close. Stop looking at with a microscope at this case and stand back and look at the whole thing. We'll perhaps get a greater understanding of what happened and why it happened. Who had a motive to assassinate President Kennedy? Lee Harvey Oswald? According to the Warren Commission, he was the assassin. But did he have a motive? Did they give him a motive? This is what they said. Sorry. Okay, first of all, let's make the assumption that the conclusion of the Warren Commission is correct. Oswald was the sole assassin. Why did he kill Kennedy? What was his motive? The Commission couldn't answer that question. It could merely speculate. This is what it came up with. It doesn't really amount to anything. It's just clutching at straws. He had a deep-rooted resentment in all authority, which was expressed in a hostility towards every society in which he lived, and blah, blah. Just mainly the same kind of stuff. It's not a motive at all. It doesn't really mean anything. But there are very powerful motives for committing murder, even if it's the President of the United States. Self-preservation, revenge, and preserving the status quo. Someone like Kennedy wanted to change things, wanted to change the world. There were people in positions of influence and power in the United States at that time that didn't want these changes. Who did Kennedy pose a threat to? The list is almost endless. Let's look at a few of them. The CIA. That probably comes under the self-preservation part, I would think, because CIA, as you know, was deeply involved in the Bay of Pigs invasion, and President Kennedy blamed the CIA for its failure, blamed him for not giving him the advice that he needed. The Mafia, well, as we know, Bobby Kennedy had a campaign to destroy the Mafia. Anti-Castro Cubans, revenge. They blamed Kennedy for the failure of the Bay of Pigs invasion. They wanted their country back. And I think there was any number of anti-Castro Cubans would have put their hands up and joined the queue to fire that rifle. So they had a powerful reason. The white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan, segregationists, call them what you like. He, although belatedly, was promoting civil rights in the United States. And that's something that they obviously didn't want to see. The hawks in the military, pulling out of Vietnam. That was a major blow to their aspirations. Big business. Those arms manufacturers. Obviously, if he's going to pull out of Vietnam, they're going to lose a great deal of money because they make money when there's a war. The oil industry. John talked earlier about the oil depletion allowance. Obviously they weren't in favour of that. LBJ. If Kennedy had lived, LBJ's career would have been over, and he might very well have gone to prison for his involvement in the various scandals that we all know about. And J. Edgar Hoover, he was going to be forcibly retired by Kennedy. After Kennedy's death, all of these institutions, these groups, these people, with the possible exception of the white supremacists because of the Civil Rights Bill, they all gained from Kennedy's death. I now want to talk to you about the Federal Reserve System and what Kennedy were trying to do. The Federal Reserve System, despite its title, is not a government institution. It's a system of a private corporation of banks that actually control the issue of currency in the United States. Right, then we have two $5 bills. Although the design is different, they are pretty much the same. They've got a picture of Abraham Lincoln, the words $5, the serial number and so on. But there's one fundamental difference between these two notes, and that is what's written at the top. At the top of the top note, it says the word Federal Reserve Note. At the bottom it says United States Note. Well, the Federal Reserve, as I said earlier, is a private corporation of banks which was set up to gain control of the American economy. And what happens, they issue currency and they charge the government, or in other words the American taxpayer, interest on this money. Now that contributed to the huge national debt that America began to suffer as a result of this. Kennedy wanted to do something about this. And what he did in 1963, June 1963, he issued this executive order, 11110. What that effectively did, well, it was an attempt to take away from this private organisation the right to literally print money. The money that the Federal Reserve Board produces is not based, there's no sort of backing for it, it's just literally paper money. And every time they need to issue cheques or pay for things, they just ask the Treasury Department, people that actually do the actual physical printing of the money, to just print more money. And all this money, as I say earlier, is charged to the government. Interest is charged to the government on this money. Well, Kennedy want to end all this, so he signed this executive order. And what he wanted to do, he wanted to return to the government the power to issue currency without going through the Federal Reserve Bank. Kennedy gave the Treasury the power to issue silver certificates against any silver bullion, silver or standard silver dollars in the Treasury. In plain language, this means that for every ounce of silver in the United States Treasury vault, the government could introduce new money into circulation. JFK brought nearly 4.3 billion US notes, bottom one, sorry, the bottom one there, into circulation. So by signing this executive order, he was about to put the Federal Reserve Bank, and with them all bankers, out of business. The Federal Reserve notes would eventually not be in demand anymore, and by doing so, in my opinion, signed his own death warrant. Kennedy's assassination, I believe, was a warning to his successors not to step out of line. Just want to talk to you a little bit about the creation of the Federal Reserve System. On the night of, ironically, November the 22nd, 1910, a delegation of the nation's leading financiers left Hoboken Railway Station in New Jersey on a secret mission. They travelled in a sealed railway car with blinds drawn for an undisclosed destination. This turned out to be Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia. This island had been purchased some years before as a winter retreat by a very exclusive group of millionaires led by J.P. Morgan. The so-called Jekyll Island delegation was led by Senator Nelson Aldrich, head of the National Monetary Commission, and President Theodore Roosevelt had signed into law the bill creating this commission in 1908. After the tragic panic of 1907, there was a public outcry that the nation's monetary system had been stabilised. Aldrich had led the members of the commission on a 2-year tour of Europe, spending some $300,000 of public money. Notes. So basically they travelled down to Jekyll Island, and the intention was to draft legislation which would be put before Congress that would give these bankers control of the financial system within the United States. Now they put this bill before Congress in December of 1913, and most of the senators and congressmen had actually left Washington for their home states, so there's only quite a comparatively few legislators still in Washington on that particular time. And with a little bit of arm twisting and a little bit of calling in various favours, they managed to have this bill passed, and it was signed into law by Woodrow Wilson the following year. Now many people have criticised this organisation, this group, over the years, but no one actually had the power or had the courage to take them on. President Kennedy did have that courage, and I think it's one of the major reasons why President Kennedy was assassinated, because if you take the fact that these people are going to lose an awful lot of money by having this system, this Federal Reserve System, abolished and the United States note system introduced, that to me is a powerful reason for actually killing someone. This is going to be a very short presentation. I just want to end by making one statement. It comes no surprise to me that the word Federal Reserve Note is printed over the word the United States of America. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, John.
Yes, I've mentioned in my presentation about C. Douglas Dillon, who was Secretary of the Treasury, who was a Republican. What was his view on this? Do you know?
I can't answer that question. As you say, he was a Republican. I think the main issue that I find so important is the fact that President Kennedy was doing so many things which upset so many people, and it's almost inconceivable to think that they were not going to they were going to accept him. You know, they just could not allow him to carry on these particular policies because there was so much at stake. So many people had so much to lose, or the other side of the coin, so much to gain by President Kennedy being assassinated. And many things happened, or were going to happen during the Kennedy administration, which all suddenly died away after he died. The Federal Reserve system is still in effect today. No one has seriously challenged it. In fact, Kennedy's executive order has not been repealed to my knowledge. But no one has the courage to take these people on. And because of their having this enormous power, when you think of, or when you hear the statement that the President of the United States is the most powerful man in the world, because he's not, he's just a figurehead for all these people. There are people behind the scenes that are controlling everything. Not only in the United States, but all over the world. You know,
date of this is very important, isn't it, in '63, because there's no doubt about it that Kennedy becomes a virtually revolutionary, I would argue, after the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's just turning
exactly. In fact, when you study the Kennedy administration, the things that he was doing sent shockwaves amongst various aspects of American institutions. He was a revolutionary. He was making major changes, and most of those changes that he had in the works did not happen because he died. Many people were not not going to let this happen, you know. So it comes as no surprise to me when you study this period that Kennedy was assassinated. No surprise at all. Anybody?
Yeah, is it true, Barry, that when Marina was asked who she believed was behind it all, she actually said the Federal Reserve Bank?
I don't think I've actually read that. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think people have actually said that.
Yeah.
But because of the amount of power this organisation wields, it takes a man of the courage of President Kennedy to actually say this can't go on, this is wrong. You know, but there are very few courageous people around these days in power, and more's the pity. More's the pity. Yes, John.
Barry, is it a known fact that Lincoln also tried to do the same thing before he was assassinated?
I was just going to say, and look what happened to him. I think he was issuing the greenbacks, I think that's what they're called. Yeah, he was doing something very, very similar, and he was assassinated.
Who replaced him? A man called Andrew Johnson, who then goes completely against his policy, against Senator from the South. History repeated.
History repeats itself, and this, I firmly believe that the Kennedy assassination is not an isolated incident. It's part of a long series of events going on right to this day. Why is America in Iraq? To bring democracy to Iraq? I don't think so. I mean, they're looking at North Korea now. They're looking at, they made threats against Syria and Iran and so on. This thing has been going on for about 100 years. When the